As I am sure pretty much every single one of you know, I am a Geo enjoyer. I have almost every single Geo unit built to some extent. One of my two main Abyss teams is a mono Geo team, and my favorite, party setup in the entire game is physical Zhongli. But despite all of that, something you may not have realized is Yun Jin really didn't have anything going to her in my eyes originally. It wasn't until I realized she actually had synergy with Yoimiya that I actually built her and got constellations for her. Unfortunately, from a distance, Yun Jin is one of those characters that just doesn't look too amazing, despite actually being extremely impactful when placed in the specific teams she works in. The issue is, unfortunately, that role she does fill is extremely niche, with few characters in the game currently actually utilizing what she adds to a team. All in all, Yun Jin is a unit that very few people will actually use, which is a genuine shame given her impeccable design and cultural influences. But that sure as hell isn't going to stop me from investing way too much time into a spreadsheet and video just to see what she's theoretically capable of. Hello, all of you devilish delinquents. I am Yuto Kurosawa, and today we're going to be taking a look at just how impactful this opera singer can be. Wait, shit, I just realized I did the wrong intro. For God's sake. It is what it is, I guess. Welcome to Yuto's Guide to Genshin. Alrighty, intros are out of the way, and I want to keep this video short and sweet so you can get back to playing the game rather than watching me. I do appreciate you all stopping by though. Yun Jin only really has one point to her polearm, so to speak. She makes normal attack characters better by adding an additional damage instance to their damage calculation. More on how that works a little bit later. Just like every character in the game, she can of course be optimized to use other elements of her kit, but primarily, beyond all else, she functions as a normal attack support character. This is also where her biggest problem stems from. She doesn't do anything outside of supporting normal attack units, which is a bit of an issue given not many characters holistically focus on normal attacks. Generally, characters in the game prefer focusing on charged attacks, bursts, skills, or universal kit synergies, where each element of the character is required to get the best results. As such, putting Yun Jin in the more meta Abyss teams just doesn't do anything and results in major losses as you're losing a unit which just works better for those teams. All in all, Yun Jin has the potential to be extremely strong within her niche. Unlike other buffing characters like Bennett, Kazuha, Mona, and Shenhe, she is not flexible, severely limiting her overall potential to see wider usage. So that's what she does as a general overview. Let's look at what her kit actually does specifically. Let's start off with the most obvious thing. She has normal attacks, because every character in the game has normal attacks. They have okay multipliers, but unfortunately due to her low base attack and her no innate defense scaling, despite being a defense-focused character, they're pretty I don't really know what else to say on them. If you want to build her physical, you can. Do I recommend it? Onto the elemental skill, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting, especially if you are a Beidou enjoyer. Firstly, and most importantly, its damage entirely scales from defense. You're gonna be building Yun Jin for defense anyway, so this is really, really nice. Secondly, it's got really solid multipliers on top of that, meaning, thanks to her A2 passive, it essentially means parrying is viable with a character other than Beidou. That's awesome to see. You can quickly swap into Yun Jin, counter any damage you're about to take, then go right back into the rest of your team rotations. More counters is something I've really wanted since the start of the game. I'm really happy we finally have another one, and yeah, I'm glad to finally be able to get some Dark Souls back into Genshin. Regarding stats, at level 7, a perfect counter or level 2 charged hit will do 559.2% of defense as geo damage and will absorb up to 1,993 plus 18% of Yun Jin's max HP, all on a 9-second cooldown. Now onto the burst, the core of her kit, so to speak. Damage-wise, well, Yun Jin is a defense-based character and her burst scales with attack. Enough said there. Grand scheme of things though, though the burst damage doesn't matter, as after the cast, up to 30 normal attacks within the next 12 seconds will have their damage increased by a percentage of Yun Jin's defense. This damage boost works in the same way that Zhongli's HP scaling functions, essentially being another raw damage instance added into your normal attack multiplier. Kind of hard to put into words, so I'll give you an example situation and show you how the math works rather than actually trying to explain it in a weird and complicated way. So, say we have a Yun Jin with 2000 defense, and a level 7 burst alongside a Yoimiya with 2000 attack and level 7 normal attacks. Yoimiya's first hit multiplier is 52.65% for 2 hits. This means that unbuffed and not considering stuff like normal attack bonus, the first hit will deal 2 instances of 1053 damage. When Yun Jin's burst is active though, those 2 hits are going to become 52.65% of Yoimiya's attack plus 48.24% of Yun Jin's defense. As such, the damage goes from 2 instances of 1053 to 1053 plus 965, or 2018. This means that just for that hit there is a total damage increase of 91.64% before crit, elemental damage, or normal attack boosts are considering, meaning this damage increase can be extremely significant. Another great part about this form of damage boosting is it's independent to the character on field's multipliers, only being influenced by Yun Jin's defense. As such, a character like Zhongli's spear kick can be made exponentially stronger as it gets a massive injection of damage from an external source. Basically, Yun Jin's burst may be niche in that it only buffs normal attacks, but the improvement it can give is extremely significant if it works with your character choice. To quickly mention constellations, C1 is a cooldown reduction on the counter, C2 is an additional 15% multiplicative damage boost for normal attacks, the same kind of damage boost that is seen on Shimenawa's Reminiscence or just normal attack boosts. C4 allows her to increase her defense by 20% by performing a crystallized reaction, and finally, C6 increases attack speed by 12%. Most of these are really solid, and while Yun Jin doesn't rely on her constellations, they all improve her in the role she is designed for, specifically that C6 really being extremely strong as it's one of the very few sources of attack speed boosts in the entire game. All around though, Yun Jin is a very balanced character. She has a pretty solid kit overall, however she is very restricted by what her kit actually does and the teams that she actually fits into. So because of that, I think this is where we really have to talk about that kind of stuff. So how am I going to be presenting everything today? Well, it's going to be a little bit left field because of how Yun Jin functions, so I'll be showing everything in a before and after kind of way. Basically showing the damage numbers before her burst and after her burst. For the sake of simplicity, the impact which Yun Jin has on her, and because I love her a lot, our sample character will be Yoimiya. She's a normal attack, single target unit through and through, meaning total percentage changes will be a lot simpler than a unit that is constantly doing AoE damage. So how are our characters going to be built? Well, for Yoimiya herself, we're going to be running a very high investment build, with level 90 of 90, rocking a 90 of 90 Thundering Pulse, and level 9 talents across the board. Artifact-wise, our Yoimiya will be running 2 Shimenawa, 2 Crimson Witch, while I personally believe 4 Shimenawa is her best overall due to the activation requirements and the fact it makes math a bit more difficult, and I want to make things simple today, we're not going to be doing that. 2-2 is just easier for me, and it will show you guys the damage increase a bit easier. For Yun Jin, she will be sitting at 80 of 80 with level 7 talents across the board. She's running all defense main stats. Regarding her artifact sets, 2-piece Husk is a must, and I highly recommend running it in combination with 2-piece Severed Fate in order to maximize her ER. The substats you want to shoot for on your artifacts will be based on your weapon choice and the way you want to build her overall. I personally like ER weapons such as the Favonius Lance, however if you're more interested in maximizing parry damage, definitely look into the more damage-oriented weapons such as Homer. Regardless though, as you probably know, for the sake of simplicity, I'll be excluding artifact substats from my calculations as RNG sucks. Further, it also means that the numbers you're going to see are more universally applicable to most situations. So with all of that said, let's get into the numbers. Across the board, Yoimiya sees some really solid improvements, seeing an average increase of 47.68%. Based on these numbers, the big takeaway is Yun Jin has the biggest impact on attacks that have low multipliers, the additional damage provided by her burst often being very similar to the attack with 50%-ish multipliers. Overall, I think it's fair to say that for the characters that are normal attack oriented, an average improvement of 47 1.86% across the board is pretty bloody significant. Team drafting wise, Yun Jin is a little bit weird. She has a couple of really good traits, those being the fact she's Geo, meaning she has access to Geo Resonance, and the fact she has that counter, meaning she could potentially be a stand-in to a healer if you're confident enough in your dodging. The big downsides is though, there aren't many teams she works with. The only ones that I've really found that actively work consistently are Razor teams, Yoimiya teams, and DPS physical Zhongli teams. In each of these, it's really up to you how you're going to build them overall, but if you can figure out a way to introduce her into them, you will see pretty significant damage increases across the board. So that more or less rounds out everything. A nice, short, sweet video to get back into the swing of theory crafting oriented stuff. And the first step to finally being back. I hope you managed to find it entertaining, informative, and anything else, I guess. Over the next little bit, I'll probably end up leaning more into the entertainment side of things, especially as I start to stream more, because that is something that's going to come up a lot more often in future, but more info on that coming later. As for now though, I really did hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider dropping a sub and watching some of my other Genshin content. There's quite the backlog at this point. For now though, the market is closed and the port has settled. Go get some rest, you devilish delinquents.